Kate Middleton's appearance at the small kirk near Balmoral Castle on August 25, 2024, was not just a royal duty. It was a statement, a powerful gesture of strength, and an unexpected moment of profound vulnerability. For months, the world had been anxiously following her journey, ever since she revealed her cancer diagnosis in March. Her public appearances had been few and far between, leaving the public with only glimpses of her struggle and grace. So when she made the decision to attend this quiet church service in the heart of Scotland's rolling hills, a place rich with royal history, it was clear that something significant was unfolding. The tiny kirk, standing in the shadow of the imposing Balmoral Castle, has long been a symbol of peace and tradition for the royal family. The congregation on this serene Sunday morning was a mix of locals, royal watchers, and those who had traveled from afar, all hoping for a chance to catch a glimpse of Kate. Some, still uncertain about her condition, wondered whether she would appear frail, or whether this would be yet another brief, impersonal royal appearance. But as Kate arrived, accompanied by King Charles, it was clear that this was not a typical royal outing. The crowd fell into an anticipatory hush as Kate entered the church. She was composed and elegant, with her head held high and her bearing graceful as always. Yet, there was something different about her. She looked stronger than many expected, a visible resilience in her steps, though the toll of the past few months was undeniable. Her eyes, which had once conveyed the composure of a public figure, now seemed to hold a deeper weight, a glimpse into the emotional and physical strain she had endured. In that moment, it was evident this was no mere royal duty. This was something far more personal. The service began in the usual reverent manner, the soft echoes of hymns filling the air. But as the congregation settled into their pews, a palpable tension hung in the room. There was an unspoken understanding that this was no ordinary Sunday. This was a moment of deep connection between Kate and those gathered, a rare occasion to witness her not as the Princess of Wales, but as a woman confronting the darkest hours of her life with grace and vulnerability. And then, as the service neared its close, Kate did something no one expected. She stood and walked to the front of the church. Every step she took was deliberate, measured, as though each one carried the weight of not just her physical journey, but the emotional one she had been on for months. There was a collective pause as the congregation watched her, and when she turned to face them, the room held its breath. This was a moment that felt larger than life, beyond the context of royal duties, beyond any formality. It was a human moment, raw and honest. "I want to thank you all for your prayers," Kate began, her voice calm, but carrying an undeniable strength that reverberated through the small stone walls of the church. "Your kindness, your faith in me, has given me more strength than I can ever express." The simplicity of her words, combined with the weight of her emotion, resonated deeply with everyone present. There was no grandeur in her speech, just raw, unfiltered truth. The room fell into a deep hush as Kate's words sank in. It was more than a simple expression of gratitude. It was a window into the soul of a woman who had been battling something far beyond the public eye. For months, the world had speculated on her condition, anxiously awaiting updates. But in this moment, she was speaking not as a princess, not as an icon of royal grace, but as a woman who had faced unimaginable challenges and found strength in unexpected places. "I've spent much of this year reflecting," she continued, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "on life, on family, on faith. It's been a time of struggle, but also of immense gratitude." Her words struck a chord with the congregation, and the stillness in the room was almost eerie. No one dared to speak, not wanting to disturb the sacredness of the moment. Kate went on to speak of the love and support she had received from her family, from friends, and even from strangers. "The love and support I received from all of you, from my family, from complete strangers, has given me a strength I never knew I had," she said, her voice growing softer but no less powerful. "And for that, I'm forever grateful." The depth of her vulnerability was almost tangible. The audience, which had long seen her as the poised, composed princess, was now witnessing her as a person who had been through the fire and emerged not unscathed, but stronger and more compassionate than ever. Her words, though spoken with the clarity of someone who had been through great hardship, were more than just a reflection on her personal journey. They were a message to everyone present, a message of hope, of faith, and of the power of human connection. Faith is not found in our strongest moments, but in the ones where we feel weakest, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Yet it carried through the room with a clarity that sent chills down the spines of those listening. And in those moments, we must hold on to hope, because that is what will carry us through. It was a message of resilience, of holding on when life seemed impossible, and finding strength in the support of others. At that moment, the air in the church seemed to shift, as though the walls themselves were absorbing her words. The congregation was visibly moved, some with tears in their eyes, others sitting in stunned silence, contemplating the profound nature of what they had just witnessed. It was not just a royal appearance. It was an intimate, raw, and powerful moment shared between Kate Middleton and the people who had supported her from afar. Just before returning to her seat, Kate added one final note. It's moments like these that remind me of the power of hope and faith. Thank you for helping me find it. With those words, she walked back to her pew, leaving a profound silence in her wake. The congregation remained seated, each person deeply affected by the moment they had just shared. What had started as a simple church service had transformed into something much more, a shared human experience, a reminder of the power of faith, hope, and resilience in the face of adversity. As Kate sat back down, the air in the church remained thick with emotion. Her words had resonated deeply with everyone present. And though the service continued, the memory of what they had just witnessed would stay with them for much longer. Kate Middleton, in that brief but powerful moment, had shown the world not just her strength, but her humanity. It was a moment that would be remembered for years to come, not because she was a princess, but because she was a woman who had faced one of life's greatest challenges and emerged not just unbroken, but profoundly changed and able to share that journey with those around her. It wasn't simply the words Kate Middleton had spoken. It was the vulnerability behind them, the raw emotion that swept through the room. Just when it seemed the service had reached its emotional peak, something unexpected happened that would linger in everyone's hearts long after they left Cy Kirk. As the minister prepared to close the service, the usual formality of the occasion seemed almost irrelevant now, after Kate's stirring address. Then, from the back of the church, a soft, almost tentative humming began. The tune of an old hymn, one many in the room had grown up hearing, floated through the air, a hymn of hope, of strength in times of adversity. Slowly, others joined in, their voices blending together into a hauntingly beautiful chorus. As the hymn grew louder, it was as though the very walls of the church were resonating with the collective emotion of the people inside. The harmony was both soothing and overwhelming, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Tears welled up in the eyes of many, while others held their loved ones a little tighter. It was a spontaneous, unplanned act of unity, but it felt so natural, as though this was exactly what was meant to happen. Kate, visibly moved by the moment, bowed her head, her hands clasped in front of her, as she slowly walked back to her seat. Her eyes met King Charles's, seated beside her, and the two exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. No words were necessary. Both had been battling their own health challenges, with Charles quietly facing his own struggle with cancer. It was a private burden they carried together. Yet here, surrounded by faith and hope, they shared a silent understanding. As Kate sat down, Charles gently reached for her hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. The power of the song seemed to sweep over both of them, just as it did everyone else in the room. For months, the public had watched them face deeply personal battles. But here, in the quiet of the church, they weren't just royal figures. They were two people finding strength in faith, just like everyone around them. The hymn continued for what felt like an eternity, yet no one wanted it to end. The atmosphere in the church was thick with emotion, the kind that reaches deep into your soul. It was a shared experience, one that would be spoken about in hushed tones for years to come. This moment transcended tradition and royalty, bringing everyone in the room closer in a way that words couldn't fully capture. As the last notes of the hymn faded into silence, no one moved immediately. There was a sense that something profound had just occurred, something they would carry with them long after they walked out of the church doors. Kate and Charles, too, seemed changed by the experience. Their gazes softened but remained resolute as they stood to leave. What happened next was still unknown, but one thing was certain. This moment would stay with everyone who witnessed it, a moment that truly gave them chills. As the service came to an end, the atmosphere in Kirk was still charged with the raw emotion of what had just taken place. People rose from their seats slowly, as if unsure if they were ready to break the spell that Kate Middleton's words and the spontaneous hymn had cast over them. But for those closest to the royal family, this day was about more than the service itself. It was about the strength Kate and King Charles had shown in their darkest moments. As they made their way out of the church, all eyes were on Kate and Charles. The two walked side by side, their connection now more visible than ever. It wasn't just a show of royal unity. It was something far more personal. Both had been through battles that tested their resilience. And now, walking together in the aftermath of such an emotional moment, they shared something deeper than titles or public appearances could convey. The two paused for a moment on the steps of the church, exchanging a few quiet words that only the two of them could hear. There was a deep understanding between them, a shared experience that went beyond their roles as public figures. As they stood there, something remarkable happened. A young girl, no older than 8, approached the royals, trembling slightly as she stepped forward, holding a small bouquet of flowers in her hands. Kate smiled warmly and knelt down to take the flowers from her. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice full of gratitude. The girl, wide-eyed with awe, stammered, "You're so brave, Your Highness." For a moment, Kate looked taken aback by the words, but then she smiled again, this time with quiet determination. "You're brave, too," she whispered. The girl beamed, and with that simple exchange, it became clear that Kate's strength wasn't just about her personal battle. It was about how she inspired others to find their own courage in the face of adversity. As the car carrying Kate Middleton and King Charles pulled away from Kirk, the weight of what had just transpired inside those ancient stone walls settled in. For the royal family, public appearances had always been part of their duty, but this moment was different. It wasn't just a moment of royal duty. It was a moment that had touched the hearts of everyone who had been there, a moment that transcended the usual expectations of royalty and reminded everyone present of the power of faith, strength, and human connection. The moment felt deeply personal, almost too intimate to share with the world. Yet here they were, two figures bound by both blood and circumstance, standing at the crossroads of their private battles and their public roles. For Kate, the road ahead was uncertain. While her doctors had reassured her that she was making good progress after her cancer diagnosis, the emotional toll was undeniable. Each public appearance felt like a test of her strength, not just physically, but mentally as well. Yet today, standing alongside King Charles in the face of their shared struggles, Kate felt a renewed sense of purpose. There was no hiding the battle scars, but there was also no hiding the resilience that had grown within her. King Charles, too, had felt the weight of the crown heavier than ever in recent months. Though his illness had largely remained behind the scenes, those closest to him could see the toll it was taking. Still, his sense of duty remained unwavering. He had been raised for this role, trained for decades to lead the country, but nothing could have prepared him for the battles that had come with age, both the personal struggles he faced within himself and the emotional toll of watching the next generation, like Kate, face their own challenges. As the car wound its way through the quiet roads of Balmoral, the silence between Kate and Charles wasn't uncomfortable. It was a silence filled with understanding, a brief moment of reprieve from the demands of their titles. Charles turned to Kate, his face softened by the late afternoon light. "You did well today," he said, his voice low but filled with genuine pride. Kate smiled, but there was a heaviness behind her eyes. "Thank you," she replied softly, glancing out the window at the rolling hills. It felt like more than just a service, she thought. It was, Charles agreed, his gaze following hers. These moments, they matter more than people realize. It's where we find our strength. They both knew that this wouldn't be their last public test. The challenges ahead, both personal and royal, would demand more from them than ever before. News of Kate Middleton's emotional return to Cy Kirk spread quickly. Within hours, images of her standing alongside King Charles, addressing the congregation, were circulating through every corner of the media. But it wasn't just the images that captured the public's attention. It was the raw emotion behind them. For so long, the royals had been seen as symbols of strength, grace, and tradition, but today they had shown something far more powerful: their humanity. Across the country and even around the world, people were moved by Kate's vulnerability. Social media was flooded with reactions, many praising her courage and openness in speaking about her journey with cancer. Others were struck by the quiet, supportive presence of King Charles, knowing that he, too, was facing his own private battle with the disease. Together, their appearance wasn't just a royal engagement. It was a reminder that no one is immune to hardship, no matter their status. "Seeing Kate today gave me chills," one Twitter user wrote. "She's been through so much, but she's still standing, still showing up for others." It's a reminder that even in our weakest moments, we can find strength. Another post read, "The royal family has always seemed untouchable, but today they felt like one of us." Kate's words about faith and hope were exactly what the world needed to hear right now. It wasn't just words of praise that poured in. There were also countless stories from people who had faced similar battles, inspired by Kate's bravery. People shared their own experiences of fighting illness, of finding hope in the darkest times, and of the unspoken strength that comes from simply not giving up. For many, seeing Kate and Charles stand together as they face their own challenges resonated deeply. It wasn't just about royal duty. It was about survival, resilience, and the quiet determination to move forward. In the days that followed, the media continued to dissect every moment of the church service, from Kate's heartfelt address to the spontaneous hymn that left the congregation in awe. But no headline could truly capture the profound impact the event had on those who witnessed it. For Kate and Charles, this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where their personal battles would intertwine with their public roles more than ever before. And for the public, their vulnerability only deepened the connection to the royal family, reminding everyone that at the end of the day, we are all human. What are your thoughts about this extraordinary event? Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more.